to the injuries. He's in the hospital. He's about plus 42. So second off, he's allowed us to drive him home. So that's what we're gonna do. But welcome reminder to everybody. Be smart. We've got a bunch of water around. We've got some sunscreen. Please use that. Obviously, firstly, I want to acknowledge and to acknowledge the sovereignty in this country that was never ceded. And to acknowledge that our welfare system is
Our Twitter socials and
disproportionately
that's not
targeted
how it's coming
and
through
harmed
because it should be widespread.
this government. So we're currently protesting today. A good example of this. They jumped up and down in opposition to that type of welfare. They got into power and then we continue to embed it into legislation. Our current Labour government said a lot of things in opposition. Said a lot of things about the rates of job seeker, where we had a bunch of signs that people are holding. We're hoping to hand in to the office after this, reminding them of some of the things they said when in opposition. We have a Prime Minister who you might have heard likes talking about his upbringing, who said in opposition that the job seeker rate was unlivable, who said in opposition that nobody can live on $40 a day. Yesterday, you might have seen a presser of him for some reason wearing a cold uniform, saying that this was the right time, this budget is the right time to lose welfare payments. They've inherited for $1 of debt, blah, 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 blah. Did you know he's got a mom? I have heard this. We're here to say that this is not acceptable. This government thinks it can say one thing when in opposition and then come out and starve millions of people on welfare. It's a national disgrace. We've been pleased to see this issue has been in the media for the last couple of weeks. But sadly, what hasn't been so much in the media is you guys, is us, is the people on the payments, forced to live on the payments. We're hearing about an awful lot from economists, from academics, from think tankers, from politicians, almost everyone from ex-RBA governors, almost everybody who is a welfare recipient seems to be elevated to the media at this point. Again, not good enough, but this is why we're here today, primarily to center your voices, the voices of welfare recipients. So what we're going to do is open the floor in a bit so welfare recipients can speak. We're also been handing around little bits of cards where people write a message to Albanese, and after the protest, we will hand that in to the office. So if you'd like to send them a message, please do that as well. I'm done rambling. I am going to pass off to Catherine over here, who's the lead organizer of the Nobody Deserves Poverty campaign, and the main reason why we're all here today. So I'm going to pass on to Catherine.
I'm not going to talk about me or my story. I am just a conduit for the story of others today. So I'm going to read one of the many stories that people have sent to me who couldn't be here today. And then we'll start opening it up to other people as well. So here's a story for you. Hi, Anthony. You said on the news this week you haven't forgotten what it's like to live in a household on DSP, so you clearly can't see how much worse it is on JobSeeker. I've been on Newstart and JobSeeker for 11 years after being injured at work and then chewed up and spat out by insurance companies and lawyers, including WorkSafe. Being sick to return to work, conveniently denied the DSP due to the means test, being nearly impossible to meet, not being critically ill. If you can't have the empathy or to look at your moral compass remembering your mother and upbringing, then please delete the private contracts, buy back government assets, and supply injured and disabled people government jobs. I understand this social engineering and keeping us down. However, I am more than happy to work if there's a reasonable job I can get from this loyalty and a good future without scrutiny. This is not possible at this current time. Thank you. Yeah, Marine, I know you've got to leave, so we'll get you pop up really quickly.
Do you want to pop up?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Yes.
Hello. So now we're going to hear from Marine Baruki, has to pop off soon, currently the
by acknowledging the sovereign owners of land that we gather people and pay my respects to elders past and present. No matter where we are in this country, we are on stolen land. Sovereignty was never ceded. This is, always was, and always will be Aboriginal land. I can't thank you enough for gathering yet again to shine a light yet again on the scale of poverty in our country. I mean, it is absolutely obscene that in a wealthy country like Australia, so many people are suffering and struggling under severe and deep poverty. Shame. Shame. That is an absolute shame. Anthony Albanese and the Labour government tell us that they have to make tough choices at this budget. But the fact is that it is people like yourselves who are making those tough choices, not the government, not Prime Minister Anthony Albanese. People every single day have to choose between putting food on the table or buying medicine. People every single day have to choose between turning their heater on in freezing cold or paying the rent. People every single day have to choose between going to the dentist or paying off their student debt. I mean, everyone deserves the right to have a safe and secure home, to have a hot shower, to have medical care, and to have food in their cupboard. And it is absolutely unconscionable that this government, this Labour government, thinks that it is a good idea to give $254 billion of tax cuts to the wealthiest and to commit to $368 billion for war machines while refusing the rate of job seeker, of youth allowance, of disability payments, and of all other income support. That is unconscionable. We all know that poverty is not inevitable. Poverty is not written in the stars. Poverty is a political choice that governments make. Yes. And during COVID, they made that choice to boost job seeker, and the lives of so many people improved. But then they scrapped it and plunged people back into poverty. When Anthony Albanese was in opposition, he is on record saying that the rate of income support is inadequate. Just last week, the Prime Minister rejected the recommendations of his own panel of experts, which are calling for raising the rate.
Shame.
So Labour in government is not the Labour in opposition. And they can't keep burying their head in the sand and basically ignoring millions of renters, single parents, people with a disability, students and women who are really having a tough time. The government says they have to make tough choices in the budget. But if they choose to give billions of dollars in tax cuts to the richest, if they choose to give billions of dollars of fossil fuel subsidies to planet-killing corporations, that's not a tough choice. That is a bad choice. That is the wrong choice. Labour, some of the Labour backbenchers have signed a letter asking for the raise to be raised. That's not good enough. That is not good enough. Labour is in government and they must act. There are no more excuses. The Prime Minister must show leadership. The budget next week, the Prime Minister must raise job seeker above the poverty line. That is what everyone living in this country deserves. People chose a government to make change, and that's what they have to do. So Labour and the Prime Minister have a choice. Will they lift people out of poverty? Or will they refuse to do that? They can join all of us and the Greens and make a choice to make a difference to people's lives, which everyone deserves. So it is time for Labour and the Prime Minister to listen to you, to listen to the community and raise the rate. Yeah. And my message to the Prime Minister is, it's time to raise the rate, Albo. Yes!
Thank you very much. And yeah, a welcome reminder to certain dissenting backbenchers, certain economists close to government. We sadly can't eat your inquiries. We can't eat your well-intentioned open letters. We can't eat your signatures on those open letters. We can't pay rent with your open letters. Next we have Phoebe. Would like to,
I wrote a little thing.
Phoebe Wheel in HD. Let's go.
Yeah, I will. I'm Phoebe. I like to boast. I'm not an ideal candidate for a job in many respects. I struggle with mental health. I can't afford diagnosis. Can't afford treatment. HRT alone puts me $100 a month behind the average cis man on welfare. Like, this is baked into the system. We're not getting enough money to exist in society. We need more than austerity. We need better than this, and we need our dignity recognised. We need our dignity recognised and our quality of life immediately improved. We were advertised a Prime Minister who understood disadvantage, who understood poverty, with a disabled mum living in public housing. What we weren't told was the next 4 decades this man spent in politics ensured his comfort and safety while watching ours fail beneath us and harming the most vulnerable among us.
Shame.
It's not like we can't see what you're spending money on, you liberal scab. Raise the rate for an innocent poverty line.
Really well said, and yes, we're not the first to say it. We won't be the last, but the story that our Prime Minister keeps laying out about his upbringing. We have single parents advocates saying this week that if Mr. Albanese's mum was around today, she would not be in the housing that she was. She would not have the payments that she was. We've had the Council of Single Mothers very clearly say in an inquiry that he would not be Prime Minister if he was living under the conditions which he's forcing onto other people, which is lifting the ladder up after you and is a disgrace. Who's next on the list?
Sorry, is that okay? Yeah.
Yep. Gotcha.
Sorry. My name is Kristen. If you don't know me, I'm from the Anti-Poverty Centre. I'm a proud AUW member, and of course, the Anti-Poverty Centre endorses today's rally. And thank all of the organisers for such hard work to put this together. Sorry. So, I'm on the disability support pension, which is a great privilege. For the past few weeks, I found myself without a home because of extortionate landlords' discrimination against welfare recipients.
Shame.
The abysmally low rate of all Centrelink payments. They are cleansing my community of poor people, and it's happening all around the country. I live and fight against the violence and social murder our government inflicts on us here on unceded Gadigal and Darug country. I pay respect to their elders, past and present, and across the continent. The welfare system is a tool of colonial violence and it disproportionately harms First Peoples. There are millions of people in poverty living in this colony, and sorry, my hands are shaking. And every single one of us and our experiences and our voices are legitimate and valid. But you know who is not legitimate? This fucking Prime Minister, who is he fucking hides behind his dead disabled mum. While hundreds of thousands of disabled people on job seeker can't afford to live. You know who else is not legitimate? Is the fucking sorry guys. I really should have done that. Politicians tell us they are simply making tough choices about whether or not to give themselves tax cuts while we can't afford to do it. And you know who else is not legitimate? It's the people who make their money in of talking about poverty and who can pay their bills because our lives are so disposable to the people in power. Every single person in poverty has the right to determine what is best for themselves. Poverty and its dated paternalism is crushing the welfare system that denies us our rights. The welfare system is killing people, causing people to self-harm and die by suicide at twice the rate of the general population. It is stealing people's present and future. It's so unnecessary. Beautiful, high-quality public homes must be available to all who want one. Centrelink payments must be available to everyone who needs support because not everyone can get a payment. And every payment must be at least the Henderson poverty line until we have a sophisticated measure of poverty for the 21st century.
Yeah.
We did it in 2020. We did it in 2020. Let's fucking do it again. Thank you everyone for your patience.
Nice delivery.
Thank you, Kristen, and very, very well said. Kristen, the Anti-Poverty Centre, I don't know, over the last couple of years, have probably appeared at 100, a million, every one of these cost of living, poverty, everyone poor inquiries, communities, rallies. Being an advocate is something whole, and it's extremely dispiriting to have to say the same shit to these people all over again. And a bunch of us have been here, either at rallies, inquiries, in the media, telling the same people the same stuff, that you're starving people and it has to stop. So next, Jess? We have Jess. Make her welcome.
Hi everyone. Jeremy said I'm Jess. I have a message from a single mum living in Alice Springs that I'd like to read out at this time. I am a former child's doctor who previously worked in Central Australia for over a decade. I am a New Zealander who remains under the special category visa. My 2 children are Aboriginal and registered traditional owners. A combination of chronic illness, unemployment and domestic violence led to our family looking for assistance to care for my children from Centrelink last year. Centrelink used multiple strategies to deny me assistance for 8 months. Even now, our payment remains limited to family tax benefit because I am a New Zealander.
Sam.
Without the generosity of some family and friends, my children and I would not have had the opportunity to make changes to ensure our safety. If we found it so difficult to even get this limited help, what hope do others have? In my opinion, Centrelink's policies have a large part to play in the issues affecting children in Central Australia, and this requires urgent government attention. For my own part, I am a single mum, and as the t-shirt says, I am contributing to society by not raising a dickhead. What I am doing is trying to give my child the best life that I can, and that is hindered by my association with Centrelink. About a month ago, I was advised by my job centre that I did not have to provide my job search, and then my payment was cut off because I didn't provide my job search.
Yeah.
So that was a full fortnight of zero monies, unable to pay rent. I had to cut into my bond money. Basically, I will never be able to pay that back. So there's my bond gone. I relied on food banks. But the thing with food banks is that there's very little fresh food. So it was pantry based. It wasn't the diet that either of us needed. And I don't think that me on the regular skipping meals is beneficial to not raising a dickhead, quite frankly. I hate having to say no to my child as much as I have to say no. I hate having to explain that the week before payment, there's just no opportunity for us to do anything fun. It's literally go to school, come home, go to school, come home. She deserves better. I deserve to be in a position where I can give her better. Fuck you, Albanese. Train everyone in the vulnerable communities. I believe the sob story about the mum, and I hate myself for that because fuck you, man. Seriously. Shame on you for putting one over me. essentially, I believe that in a country as abundant as this, in a country as rich in resources as this, yeah, mate, there shouldn't be one person that is homeless, that is hungry, that is unable to pay for the basic necessities, especially when we have billionaires in this country. Failed government policy, whichever way you look at it, both ends. So I want the rate raised. I want to be able to pay my rent and feed my child at the same time, every day. And I want this country to do better. Because each of us is only one small catastrophe away from being homeless, from being disabled, from being absolutely wiped from the social conscience. Fuck that.
Well said. And yeah, it's worth highlighting. There probably isn't a group that Labor over the last 10 years have rat fucked harder than single parents, which again makes it extremely unsavory. This bloke likes to roll out the single parent card, if you can call it that. There's been some murmurings. Again, we have to sort of play the mystery box challenge. We don't know what's going to happen in this budget a little bit. There's been some murmurings that they're going to undo some of the damage they did when Gilla decided to keep grandfathering single parent payments on the same issue as the misogyny. It seems like the whispers are coming through that they're going to raise the age to 14, which again is lower than what all the advocates and single parents groups are asking for, and still leaves them in poverty.
They're still costing money at 14.
Yeah, it's well known, right? Who's next? I think Jess, the AUW national president.
Friends, hello. Friends, thanks for coming down. My question to all of us is, why the fuck are we here? In 1987, Albo's hero, Bob Hawke, said that no child would be living in poverty by 1990. And then, what happened there? What happened there? Albo can do what his hero failed to do and make a name for himself by raising welfare above the poverty line and actually eliminating poverty, not only for children, but for adults as well. All he needs to fucking do is have the balls to do it. I'm not going to criticize him for his mum because...
It's popular.
Huh?
It's popular.
It's popular. You know, everyone else has had a go at his mum. I'm sick of the story, as I'm sure you all are. He just needs to get on and do it. Mr. Albanese earns $1,507 a day as Prime Minister.
Shame!
We earn less than $50 a day. 30 of you here who are on payments equal 1 day of Albo's pay.
Shame!
And that's not before all the little perks and all the little allowances, thank you, that he gets. And a free house. Yeah.
2 free houses.
Yeah, imagine if we all got 2 free houses. You the man. Yep, all right. Can I get a vote from the committee of management?
Hashtag 2 free houses. Let's go.
Okay. That's a new demand. It's just, you see, hang on, where'd they go? These quotes from various MPs and the Prime Minister himself from when they were opposition. Who are they? Who are these people? Because these are not the people that are currently running the country. It's all very easy to take pot shots at the government when you're in opposition. But people remember these things. And we need to remind them that they have said all this. They have said people can't live on $40 a day. said that New Start is inadequate, said it's a disgrace to force Australians to live on this money, said we need to review New Start. It's only Labor that is willing to tackle this, and we know it's too low. Their lack of empathy is demonstrated by the way that they have let New Start stagnate below the poverty line. Said Amanda Richmond. Funny story. We were in Newcastle this week, and through a set of sliding doors moments, we had an encounter with Amanda Richmond. We decided not to gang up. We decided not to bully her. But Catherine had a chat. Did you get the talking points, Catherine?
I sure did. Australians on JobSeeker are doing it tough. And I managed to say the one thing that we need to keep saying, which is people on JobSeeker were doing it tough 5 years ago. Now we're living in catastrophe. Yeah. And then I got a handshake and then
I actually watched that hand after.
Jim Chalmers, November 10, 2020. On what planet does helping the growing ranks of the unemployed in a recession hold the country back? What are these people doing?
Nothing.
What should they be doing?
Raise the rate.
What do we want? Raise the rate. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? When do we want it? What do we want? When do we want it? Now. No more nuclear subs. Raise the rate, you fucking grub. No more nuclear subs. Raise the rate, you fucking grub. No more nuclear subs. Raise the rate, you fucking grub.
Thank you.
Also very weird thing to be all of the But yes, we have the receipt. We've printed out the receipt. We're going to hand deliver after this some of these receipts to remind them of some of the shit they've said in the past. Who's next? Where's Avery? I think Avery wants to get behind me.
With an excellent sign. Avery, can we get that for the camera, please?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Speaking list, if you know, think out of your prioritize people or not recently on local pages, but if you have something to say, come to the document. Final opportunity again, as I said earlier, I'd love to do it, and that's the opportunity. Speaking about this issue last couple of weeks, I want to give you one as much as I can. Speaking of Avery.
Woo!
I'd like to acknowledge something so that I pay my respects to elders past and present, and I recognize that social justice cannot be made without justice and justice. 20 years ago, the coalition showed us that we could practically end poverty for millions overnight with the introduction of the coronavirus supplement. Sure, it was because the Liberals didn't want the general public to see the widespread harm that the government inflicts on people who are unemployed, underemployed, unwaged, and unable to work. But for many of us, the supplement changed our lives. It was the first time I'd been out of poverty in my entire life. I've told my personal story many times. My mother raised me and my siblings by herself for years whilst on single parenting payments, dealing with the trauma that my father inflicted on all of us. Our relationship deteriorated to the point where I lived with my father for a few years, but eventually became hopeless to get out of that situation. I spent years languishing on youth allowance, struggling to pay food, rent, medication, and other bills. I stopped eating 3 times a day, to the point where I now don't feel hungry until like 4 o'clock. Poverty has lasting effects on our health. This government knows this. We tell them the same shit. Their own fucking committee tells them the same shit. And they are actively ignoring us to punish us. There has been report after report saying people are choosing between the bare essentials. And yet all they can say is they know we're doing it tough.
Shame!
Shame on them!
Shame!
I am not a coward like Anthony Albanese. I use my situation to fight for meaningful change. To say this is not enough, not to garner votes for sympathy for something he clearly doesn't actually believe in anymore.
The hardship that I and others face is directly caused by the decisions of this government. They have chosen to leave the current rate of payments well below any and every measure of the poverty line. Punishing the millions of people who are out of work, cannot work, and who have insecure and casual work. They directly cause harm by forcing us into programs that do not work, like mutual obligations and work for the dole. Poverty in Australia is largely an intentional policy decision, using our lives to give money to their donors. On one hand, they give tax cuts that disproportionately benefit wealthy people, while they force us with payments so low that we cannot afford to have a roof over our heads and pay all of our bills. Albanese says this government has to make tough decisions in this next budget. What about the tough decisions that we have to make every single day?
Yeah.
I was once told that I had to wait and see and hope that I was pleasantly surprised by Labor. Not going well. Every time that I hear anything about Labor and their inadequate inability to do anything, I'm not fucking pleasantly surprised. It's not pleasant, and I'm not surprised. This government absolutely has the responsibility to correct the mistakes that it makes into their policy failures. They must raise the rate of all payments above the Henderson poverty line. They must abolish mutual obligations. They must abolish table rates and means testing. And they must provide us with dignity. Absolutely nobody deserves poverty in a country as wealthy as ours.
Thank you, Avery. Well said. I'm going to pass off to Jules, one of our people from Canberra. And I do want to quickly shout out to people who've made a journey to get here today. I know some of our Canberra comrades. From Canberra. I know Aaron. You've come from what, Wollongong? I know Chris, wherever Chris is. Got on the red-eye train last night from Wagga. Really appreciate this commitment and dedication to the cause. Sure.
Hi everyone, I'm Jules. I'm long-term disabled and unemployed. We all know about the rising costs of housing, of food, of medicine, of education, of heating and fuel. We are here, we are calling for a proper public housing policy. We are calling for the welfare rate to be raised to above the Henderson poverty line. We are calling for the abolition of the cruel and unnecessary practices of mutual obligations. We are calling for the return of all welfare services to the federal government and away from profiteering private companies that are making billions of our misery. And most of all, we are calling for the same chance at a decent, dignified life that our Prime Minister and his mother had 50 years ago. Thank you for coming out here today.
Extremely well said. I think I'm at the end of our official speaker list, so I still have a little bit more time on my permit before the cops get mad. Anybody who would like to open call, particularly people on welfare payments, particularly people who travel?
Yes.
Okay.
No, I think so. Okay.
Yeah, as well as all of us here today, a bunch of people are watching currently on the live stream. Dozens of hundreds of people from all over the country in their stories, and Catherine's going to read some of them now.
So were you wanting to talk as well? Were you wanting to talk as well? Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, great.
Very heartfelt
Jeremy.
essays, very well articulated essays, but and I'll try and publish them somewhere because so many people are not being heard. Okay, so here's another one. My message to the PM is if he wants to retain my vote, he better raise the rate. If the government can afford massive tax cuts for the wealthy, it can afford to raise the rate of job seeker to above the poverty line. Those tax cuts will just go straight into tax havens. As far as I'm concerned, his sob story about his childhood is rubbish. Labor will lose my vote over this. I'm going to add one tiny thing, which is we're going to have to lean on each other for as long as this takes. Fingers crossed there will be something significant in this budget, something that will keep people alive, but we can't guarantee that. We're going to do our best, but we can't guarantee it. And so, if not, we're facing another year of, of platitudes and sympathy. We're going to have to fight. We're going to have to look after each other. So, please, whatever you need to do, look after yourself, look after each other. One way or the other, we're going to succeed eventually, but eventually might take a goddamn long time. And we all need to just make it through to the other side. So look after yourselves, look after each other, and thank you all for being here.
Jeremy.
This might be one of the bleakest budgets I can remember, because I think a lot of people are holding on to some hope that the mob that were in opposition, for the last decade would do something. There's a lot of fear amongst community, low-income advocates that this might be the budget that breaks people, because it's looking like there isn't going to be enough in it. So yes, please reach out for help. We're always here to support you. Groups like the Anti-Poverty Centre, groups like the Anti-Poverty Network in Adelaide. Please reach out. We're all here to support. After this little session, we're going to go and order a bunch of pizzas as well. So at least you can. This guy might not be feeding you, but at least you can leave today, hopefully, with a full stomach. Another speaker.
Hey guys, speaking about homelessness, I was homeless for about 10 years until 2019, and it was in 2018 November I suffered a C7 vertebrae fracture. I've been attacked while I was homeless. 4 months later, 12th of February 2019, C6 vertebrae fracture. 4 months after being attacked while being homeless. Raising the rate. It's a huge thing because I don't know how many people talk to your homeless communities. Honestly, I miss the communities. The homelessness, it sucks. But from every homeless person I've ever met, those who have taken their own lives to the young kids today, they grow up in a lifelong game of Monopoly. Have you noticed that? Yeah. It destroys lives. And raising the rate will hopefully give some of us who have PTSD, who are struggling chronic pain, who are dealing with mental health issues, depression, anxiety. What needs to happen? There needs to be more awareness for this shit. And from personal experience, I've lost many friends who have had their homes taken from them by force. They've had debt collectors sent after 13-year-old kids.
Shame!
I'm sick of seeing this bullshit day in, day out.
Yes.
Something needs to change.
Everything needs to change.
Thank you. Everything needs to change. Now, we need to I'm going to say this once. Don't give up the fight. We have got to unite.
Really well said. Thank you for sharing that. Hard act to follow. But if anyone else would like to, Aaron, do you want me to bring it down there?
Yes.
We do like a little group of protesters.
I've been on job seeker for the last 6 years since I finished uni in 2016. I've been on income support for 15 years. I'm trying to put together an application for the disability support pension due to severe social anxiety. It's a wonder I'm actually here today because of that. Severe major personality disorder, and I'm an autistic spectrum disorder. For the
for the anxiety and the depression, I need to see a clinical psychologist or a psychiatrist. I can't afford either on JobSeeker. And I need to save $1,500 to get assessed for autism. I can't do that on JobSeeker either, not at the rate it's on. It needs to be raised so I and others like me can get the help we need to get onto the payments that we should be on. I have been told that I should not be on JobSeeker. I should be on disability pension. But I can't. I can't access the services that I need on JobSeeker because I cannot afford it. It has to change.
Dan. Who else spoken on?
And then we have TJ, who might like to share. We can keep out of the sun. It's nice to hear.
It is nicer here. It is much nicer here. My complexion agrees with it. Anyway. Excuse me if I sound a bit weird. I'm on new medication, but just wanted to share a brief story about job seeker agencies and mutual obligations in general. Is that as soon as they converted to the new Workforces Australia thing, I got automatically assigned to a new workplace ASP. And my old one, Max Employment, I mean, they suck, right? But I lucked out. I had one worker assigned to me who was like, yeah, don't worry about it, man. I'll just say you came in. It was cool. Anyway, got onto the new one. Have to go there every single week, despite the fact that I have some pretty hardcore mental health problems. And a doctor's certificate used to always be the way that you could get out of having to do that. They forced me to do it anyway. It was around September, August, November or something like that. And I'm not trying to do a pity party, but I tried to kill myself. And I didn't realize that I had an appointment that day. The next morning. So I called them while I was on a train from the Blue Mountains because a friend said, come up and we'll take care of you. And the next day I'm going home, I'm much more relaxed, and I realize I've got this appointment, and I call up and say, hey, look, I'm really scattered right now. I'm really emotionally distressed. I'm not going to make it because I'm still an hour away. I tried to kill myself, and that kind of just fell out. And they had this whole thing, and the manager or the area manager called me and said, hey, we've got to do a welfare check on you. I said, yeah. They never did. I had to actually call the cops and insist on them coming to do a welfare check, even though I was terrified. Anyway, I'm rambling a little bit. A month and a half later, when they put out that thing saying during Christmas you don't need to report, and I was caught in a weird date. There was some kind of idea that it didn't apply to me and I would still have to go. So I called up the line. I tried to figure out what's going on. I asked to be put onto my caseworker. And the woman who answered the phone continuously said, no, you can't, and no, there's nobody in. And when I tried to just ask her, hey, can you just, I know he's in today, we had an appointment set, can you just transfer me? She started going through my notes, saw that I had attempted suicide, and then started making jokes about it. Yeah, Jeremy and Tom Students and a couple of other people, Mel and Kristen and stuff, got me to kind of balls up a bit and go out and write a complaint to them. When we finally got the complaint in, the person who was supposed to call me and tell the results, even though I said, please email conversation only because I'm terrified, she kept calling me. She called me at one point. I said, just tell me in writing, please. And she sent me back an email saying, we've concluded the investigation, we did something about it, and we're not going to tell you what that is. Yeah. But the thing is that the person who was telling me to kill myself identified themselves by their name the second time I called back. So I knew their name now, and there's only one person with that name on LinkedIn who works at 8 p.m. And she still works there. Mutual obligations have got to go. They've been ridiculous. They weren't that ridiculous when I was 15 and on Centrelink, but I'm 32 now, and this is getting to cartoonishly fucking evil levels. The idea that I might have a complete mental breakdown and that means that I'll never be able to pay my rent on time and get forced out of the home, and I'm in government housing, and you can still do that. They can still just use that as a anyway, abolish mutual obligations, right? That's it.
Let's go.
you for sharing. How do you feel? Okay, you know, TJ's been through a hell of a lot lately, as you can see. We managed to get TJ's story into SBS. I encourage you all to look at that story. Even SBS tried to get APM to release the findings of their complaint. They wouldn't release it to the media. You tried to get them to give the report of the investigation. They wouldn't give it to you. AEW tried to get them to release the report. Is there an update?
Yeah, there is an update. I've worked in call centers for a long time, and it is 100% Australian law that even if it's a government agency, it's your right to call them up and say, as a client of yours, I would like transcripts and records of my entire history and all interactions with you people. So that's being arranged. I think they want me to come in and sign some kind of like release or something, but I have a feeling they're not going to. I'll update Jeremy.
Thank you for being vigorous. No, it's really important because it's an important. The other side of this asshole not raising the rate is at the same time during cost of living crisis. People like TJ, I have to do mutual obligations as well. We're being forced into all this shit. We're being bullied. We're being lied to. We're being coerced into free labor. We're having people whose level of empathy is to make fun of us when we're feeling sick and when we need support. It's an absolute joke. We're getting crushed by both sides. Not just the low rate of income support, but it's also all this shit we're having to be forced into to keep our pitiful payments. Another speaker?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, my wife's got lousy knees, and I'm basically stuck at home, waiting for his promised operations, which may or may not fix it. And because it may possibly fix it, she's not apparently eligible for disability support, and so keep on having to say, get a doctor's certificate saying why she can't look for work. It's a bit of a nuisance. Another thing is a service which they have with me was free. It's not free for my wife because Morrison government cut it off Medicare. That's getting MRIs. So we just had to pay for that. It would be nice if Albanese would restore the services that Medicare used to provide in those days of Tony Abbott, say. You know, it is. It'd be nice for them to commit themselves to. They complained. I remember the last election that the Liberals were going to destroy Medicare, and then there was a Medicare scare because Liberals were saying that they weren't going to abolish it, but they cut, little cut here, little cut there, and I'd like to know whether Labor does intend to restore the services that Medicare once upon a time provided.
You know, things are pretty bleak when we're trying to ask Albanese to just make something as good as Tony Abbott.
Yeah.
It's pretty bad. We're getting to the end. We have.
Yeah, fuck you, Albo. Whatever you have to say. Yeah.
We want to make sure we share as much of your stories. Maybe someone can grab that clipboard. If anyone hasn't written a little message they're about to take in to the office, please do so. We still have some time left if anyone would like to speak before we do that, and then we can shuffle off to the park and have something to eat. Hopefully, if you'd still like to hang out. Gonna circulate. Does anyone else want the megaphone?
Hello, my name's Simon. I'm from New Zealand. I've been doing this this back and forth game
Sorry,
for quite some time. I had a back and neck injury as a result of an unsafe workplace, which I was telling them about at the time. My concerns went unheeded. I ended up dealing with Heritage Eye Care, fun organization to have to try and get something out of. And then after that, ended up with a surprise coma brain tumor. So I've been through public health system as well, and you get to see how that failed as well. I gotta say, you guys seem a lot more optimistic than I do about this whole situation. There's an Jacobin called Anthony Albanese is not a friend of Australia's left, and he never was. Has anyone read it?
Yep.
Yes.
Live in it too.
If you have not read that, I highly recommend writing it down. About the hard left versus the Baldwinites in the 80s and 90s. What we're seeing now is no surprise to anyone that has been watching for quite some time, and or anyone that spent a good 5 years on the internet. It's something that we can sit around and call and hope and expect and look for promises to be fulfilled, or we can, as they say, hope for the best, plan for the worst. Make them scared is a good way of putting it. I would say that there's not much to be scared of here. We've got a sizable crowd, and yet the only kind of representation that they've sent out to acknowledge our presence has been, what, 6 or 7 bulldogs from the not local cops, not protect the people, stop the bad guys. These are federal police, so protect the bad guys, stop the people. And I don't know, some of them look a little short to me, it's not true. But I would say that they feel that that is what is necessary. 7 of them to hold down the rest of us, because we are peaceful protesters. At the end of the day, there's nothing for them to be afraid of when we're playing things the right way. So I'm never going to advocate for violence. I'm certainly not in a physical position to instigate it myself. But I would say that rather than hoping for the best, I mean, do that by all means, but plan for the worst as well. And the way that I've looked at has been mutual aid networks. I mean, what we've got going on, all the resources that have been offered here have been fantastic. But if there's one thing that I can say is get in touch with the people around you, start forming networks. Yep, there we go. The guy who's been homeless certainly gets it. You got to be able to lean on each other, because at some point, each one of us is going to be let down individually by this system. They don't want to help us. They want bodies to run the machines, smart enough to run them, and dumb enough to accept this passively. Thank you.
Well said. And yeah, it shows the importance of those mutual aid networks, shows the importance of the stuff we're trying to do here, organize ourselves, support ourselves, build as much pressure as we can. I think I'm just as cynical probably as you are. I think this budget's going to be an absolute turd. And that's partly why we're here, partly why we're going to keep organizing and building. Another speaker? What's the time? How are we doing?
We've definitely got enough time. Leanne's up. Yeah.
Leanne.
Hello. Just want to say that this policy will kill people.
Yes.
And Anthony Albanese and every single politician who just stands by and lets this happen, that blood is on your hands.
Yay!
Well, one of the things we say is that these welfare policies, they are social murder. We know they're shortening people's lives. We know they're pushing people with mental health issues to the brink. It's deadly serious, and it makes it extra disgusting whether it's Albanese, whether it's the treasurer, whether it's Rishwa, although Rishwa's been pretty quiet. It makes it extra disgusting when they bring out the "we want to get more people into work" rhetoric. When they bring out the $1 trillion worth of debt rhetoric, extra sickening when you listen to something like Leanne just said about what these policies are doing to people in real terms, and how awful it is for us to have to see that happening to our friends, to our families, to our communities. Is there anybody else? I think, yeah, hard to follow what Leanne said. Please keep filling out the forms. I will take them in. Apparently they're only going to let one of us in, so I guess I'll do that. In the meantime, Dan, did you have anyone got any other chance?
Yeah. No more stage 3. Fuck you, pay me. No more stage 3. Fuck you, pay me. No more stage 3. Fuck you, pay me. No more stage 3. Fuck you, pay me.